So I've had varying experiences with mentorship. I've had mentors who have really not taken so much time to understand who I am, and therefore it's not necessarily worked out so well. But some of the best mentors that I've had have actually taken the time to kind of get to know me, understand what my aspirations are, and also be able to guide me on the path to actually get to where I want to be. Because I think that's the most important part of it, is really understanding what the aspirations are for your mentee. Because as a mentor, and I've been in that mentor position as well, sometimes you're like, oh my God, this is brilliant, you should do this, that and the other. Some of those things your mentee doesn't want to do, and I've always been very firm in what I do and what I don't want to do, and what aligns and what doesn't align with me. So some of the best mentors that I've had, and I still have a mentor who is very much like this, will sit, will listen, and we'll say, okay, so if this is where you want to be, this is actually the path that we can use to take you there. And along the way, we'll hold your hand. And along the way, we'll be there when things don't quite work out as I planned. And along the way, are there to actually celebrate your successes as well. And we'll constantly kind of lead you into that. And also, one of the best things that actually the mentors that I've had have done have encouraged me to look back. Because I think that often what we don't do when we are being mentored is look back at how far you've come. You always think about the next step, don't you? You always think, right, I'm right back down at the bottom of the ladder again. But actually, every single time you're taking another step, and then you look down and you realise you've actually come a hell of a lot further than you think you have. So having the best parts of mentorship for me of being able to look back, and for them to be able to document and say, look how far you've come, look at what you've achieved. This means that you now have the power to be able to get to this point as well. So that's my experience.
That's my experience with mentoring. I think I want to talk about mentoring as a child, because for many of us growing up, we don't have perhaps the parental oversight and the support that we need. And you find yourself struggling, right? I was one of 6 kids, and I was the last child behind 4 boys. And I had very distracted parents. So there was a lot of self-care that I had to do. So my first mentors, I would say, were friends who saw me, who saw my struggles and embraced me and made me part of their family, and identified the challenges that I had. And they I belonged. And I had mentors at different stages of my growth. I had friend mentors, peer mentors, I guess you could call them, when I was in elementary school, when I would go to school and I didn't have the right clothes or the right shoes to wear, and they would take me home and give me something because my parents were distracted and I grew up in a very chaotic environment. They did their best, but it was pretty chaotic. Or I had friends when I was in high school, when I'd been boarding school, and my parents would forget to pick me up, and my friends would say, you can come home with us. And I'd go home with them and stay with them, and my parents wouldn't even know that I had holidays. There are many children like that who had capable parents, but families were chaotic, right? And I also had a mentor when I was in college, people who they saw me for who I was, and they embraced me. And today I thank them for that mentoring, right? And so that's kind of from childhood. And that's why I feel so passionate about this work, because just by seeing people and being present and being empathetic, it's not even about solving problems sometimes. It's the support or the sense of belonging. So childhood mentoring, I think, is one of the most important things that we can do. Of course, I've had mentoring as a professional. I've had colleagues who have mentored me. I have bosses who've mentored me. I have had mentors who have bullied me into learning. And so there are all kinds of ways of mentoring. The mentoring that enriches you, that empowers you. And then there's mentoring that is learning under pressure. So that's been my experience with mentoring.
My experience with mentoring is quite similar to Violet's. And I think I realized that the first day we talked, and I realized that we share some really similar experiences, childhood experiences, teenage experiences. And yeah, so that is almost exactly what mentoring means to me. Growing up as well, I didn't have that support from my parents. I didn't have that support from my family. It was like I had to find myself by myself. So I found mentorship amongst friends, amongst peers, and people who accepted me, who taught me what I needed to know. I grew up in a family of, we're actually 14, and we all grew up together. So I've also found mentors in different phases of my life. I found mentorship in my teenage age. And I think there's something about me. I don't want to brag about it, but I feel like people are usually drawn to me. Sometimes people see me and they just want to be friends, or they just want to help, or they just want to guide me. I had that also in church. I had a teenage pastor in church that really took this interest in me. She was the person that honed my writing skills. She helped me discover that I loved to write. And I was writing for the church bulletin then. I wrote these poems and I would come out in church and read it. And people usually loved it. And that was how I started I started journaling, because when I write down how I feel, it really helped me. Because growing up, I really grew up in a lot of anger, and I don't want to use the word self-hate, but there was a lot I was really struggling with, and writing helps that. Also, when I got into university, I also had some lecturers that took to me and they liked me and they wanted to guide me as well. And professionally, when I finished school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but somehow along the way, I've met people who had helped me in their own way. They've helped me figure out what I wanted to do. They've helped me figure out my journey. They've helped me figure out my path. Like, it's just been a mix of different kinds of mentorship for me. I've not really had a professional mentor, but I would say I've found really good mentorship amongst friends, among kins, even in strangers. They've offered to help and they've guided. Even you get random piece of advice from people and you realize that if you heed to this advice, it would actually take you far. Because there are some things you read and you realize that, okay, I could try this. And when you do, you find your life take a different turn. And I also want to borrow from what Regina said about looking back. Eventually, you're going to look back, you're going to assess your life, and you're going to say, you've really come a long way from where you used to be. So I think at the end of the day, we just want mentors that would listen, that are empathic, and would actually get to know us. Because if you don't, I feel like you're not going to be a great mentor if you can't really relate with the situation. And that's one thing that makes me really excited about Sisters Keeper. It's the fact that I've been there. Like, I've been there once in my life. I was this teenager. I had no guidance. I had no support. I wasn't. Maybe I wanted. I knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how to get it. But yeah, I think that's one thing that makes me really excited about being here.
I have had the privilege of being mentored from a very young age. So immediately I finished my primary school, my parents set me up with an organization that does mentorship. And I was able to get mentors through the organization, as well as people who I met along the way. So I can say I've had mentors in every phase of my life, because I was transitioning into high school. So when I was going into high school, I had someone who guided me and gave me like what to expect while getting into high school, who monitored my progress, monitored my strengths. I had someone who I was accountable to. So I was able to account for the experiences that I'm going through, and also share them with someone to guide me, to advise me, which I found very, very helpful. So getting into high school, I can say it really helped me to focus and know what my strengths are and focus more on them. And once I finished high school, I was able to meet a stranger who just connected me with someone who was in my career path of interest. And I had a job shadowing experience for about 4 months before I joined university. So I was able to know this is the course that I'm going to do. So this is the expectation of the work environment that I'm going to be in. And that was very, very helpful for me. And I think mentorship is what bridges the gap between experience and potential. So someone who has experience can see the potential I have and guide me through it. And I'm so grateful for that because it's proven to be beneficial. And I can say maybe I'm a living testimony that mentorship works. So I hope we can be able to give that to other girls. That's why I'm so excited about Sisters Keepers, to be able to share this experience with other girls. Yeah.